As Ursula lay on her bed, staring up at the ceiling in the dark room, she couldn't shake the feeling of despair that had settled over her. The events of the day had replayed in her mind over and over, each time more painful than the last. She couldn't understand why everything seemed to be going wrong. Suddenly, a loud knock on her door startled her out of her reverie. Ursula sat up, wiping the tears from her eyes, and called out in a weak voice, "Who is it?" "It's me, Max," a voice replied from the other side of the door. "Can I come in?" Ursula hesitated for a moment before nodding silently. The door creaked open, and Max stepped into the room, his face filled with concern. He sat down on the edge of the bed and placed a comforting hand on Ursula's shoulder. "I heard you yelling earlier," Max said softly. "Are you okay?" Ursula shook her head, unable to find the words to express the turmoil raging inside her. Max squeezed her shoulder gently, offering her a comforting presence in her time of need. "I know things are tough right now," Max said, his voice filled with empathy. "But you're not alone. We're all here for you, no matter what. You don't have to face this all by yourself." Ursula looked up at Max, her eyes filled with gratitude for his kindness. She knew that she could always count on him to be there for her, no matter how dark things may seem. "Thank you, Max," Ursula whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know what I would do without you." Max smiled warmly at her, his eyes filled with unwavering support. "We'll get through this together," he said reassuringly. "You're stronger than you realize, Ursula. Don't give up hope." With Max's words echoing in her ears, Ursula felt a glimmer of hope begin to stir within her. She knew that she had friends who cared about her, friends who would stand by her through thick and thin. And with that knowledge, she felt a renewed sense of determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the night stretched on, Ursula found herself drifting off to sleep, her mind finally at peace. The events of the day faded into the background, replaced by a sense of calm and tranquility. And as she slept, a new resolve formed in her heart, ready to face whatever obstacles the future may bring. In the darkness of her room, Ursula's dreams were filled with visions of a brighter tomorrow, where love and friendship triumphed over adversity. And as she slept, a smile played on her lips, a silent promise of better days to come. Words. 460. Luna, from the animated show Hello Boss, sat in her small room feeling tense and frustrated. She closed her eyes and placed her fingers on her forehead, trying to calm herself. But the memories of her tablet being destroyed by military personnel flooded her mind, fueling her anger. Why is everyone's problem? What's going on here? Can't you just tell me? Luna exclaimed, her voice filled with frustration. I want to use this tablet to help people, and now it's ruined. How can I use my magical high-tech tablet to help people? Go screw yourself. What's your problem? Her loud outburst echoed in the room, and she could feel the weight of her emotions building up inside her. Panting heavily, she shouted, Go screw yourself, all of you. Get lost and leave me alone. Tears welled up in her eyes as she cried out, Why? Why is the entire world insane? Why can't the world just take a chill pill? She sank down onto her chair, burying her face in her hands as she sobbed uncontrollably. Feeling defeated and overwhelmed by the harshness of the world, Luna started to sing softly to herself, a melancholic tune that matched her mood. She stood up, wiped away her tears, and made her way to a spare empty room in the building, seeking solace in its quiet emptiness. In the dimly lit room, Luna sat down on the cold floor, her back against the wall. She closed her eyes, pressing her fingers to her forehead as she tried to calm the storm of emotions raging inside her. In her depressed state, she felt like she didn't belong in this world, like she didn't deserve to exist. As she sat in silence, lost in her own thoughts, a spark of determination flickered in her eyes. She stood up, her expression a mix of sadness and resolve. She refused to let the world beat her down, to let the loss of her tablet define her worth. With a deep breath, Luna lifted her head and stared at the floor, her mind racing with thoughts and plans. She knew she had a purpose, a mission to fulfill, and she wouldn't let anything or anyone stand in her way. As she walked back to her room, a sense of determination filled her soul. She may have lost her tablet, but she still had her skills, her knowledge, and her passion to help others. And with that realization, Luna made a silent vow to herself. She would find a way to continue her work, to make a difference in the world, no matter what obstacles stood in her path. As she lay down on her bed, the events of the day replayed in her mind. The anger, the sadness, the sense of loss, they all blended together into a mix of emotions that fueled her resolve. And as she drifted off to sleep, a new sense of purpose filled her heart, driving her to face whatever challenges the future may hold with strength and courage. Words. 506. In the eerie silence of the empty spare room, Sheer from the Dinosaur King anime show sat alone, feeling the weight of the world crushing down on her. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the overwhelming emotions that threatened to consume her. As she brought her fingers to her forehead, a haunting flashback suddenly played in her mind. Sheer watched helplessly as the military destroyed her precious tablet, the only source of solace and escape in her turbulent life. In a moment of desperation, she intervened, yelling at them to stop and protect her treasured possession. But they paid her no heed, crushing the tablet under their boots with cruel indifference. Why can't you leave me alone? What's everyone's problem? Sheer cried out in anger, her voice rising in frustration. She stared down at the broken remnants of her tablet, tears welling up in her eyes. Why is the whole world against me? Can't they see I'm just trying to do something for myself? Her voice cracked as she sobbed, feeling the weight of loneliness and betrayal pressing down on her. I'm lost, she whispered, her arms wrapping around herself in a feeble attempt to find comfort. The world felt like a cold, harsh place, and Sheer was tired of fighting against it. As night fell outside, casting shadows across the room, Shear's mood darkened even further. A pounding headache added to her misery, making her feel physically ill from the stress and anxiety weighing her down. Shear slumped on her bed, covering her eyes and willing the world to just leave her in peace. I can't do this anymore, Shear muttered to herself, her voice a mere whisper of her former anger and defiance. I just want to rest, to sleep, to forget everything that's tearing me apart. And so, Shear drifted into a fitful slumber, seeking refuge in the realm of dreams where the troubles of reality couldn't touch her. The empty spare room remained silent, a sanctuary of solitude for a soul battered and bruised by the harshness of the world. As the story ends abruptly, leaving Shear to find solace in sleep, the reader is left with a sense of unease and foreboding. What awaits Shear when she awakens from her troubled sleep? Will she find the strength to face the challenges that await her outside the empty spare room, or will she be consumed by the darkness that lurks in the shadows of her own mind? The complex creativity and thriller genre of the story leave the reader on edge, desperate to uncover the secrets and mysteries that lie hidden within Shear's troubled soul. Words. Inside the empty spare room, Ursula from Dinosaur King anime show sat alone in the darkness, feeling tense and agitated. She closed her eyes, trying to calm herself as memories flooded her mind. The flashback started to play, showing Ursula's tablet being destroyed by the military. No, stop. Ursula shouted, her voice filled with anger and frustration. That's mine, why are you destroying it? Why can't you just leave me alone? Tears welled up in Ursula's eyes as she stared at her broken tablet, feeling a sense of loss and betrayal. She clenched her fists, her body trembling with emotion. What's wrong with the world? Why is everyone so cruel? Her voice broke as she sobbed, feeling overwhelmed by the harsh reality around her. I'm so lost, she whispered, her words barely audible. She wiped her tears away, trying to compose herself. Feeling drained and exhausted, Ursula made her way to the empty spare room, seeking solace in solitude. The darkness of the night outside mirrored the darkness she felt within. She flopped down on the bed, her head pounding with a headache from the stress of trying to navigate a world that seemed intent on breaking her spirit. As she lay on the bed, Ursula's thoughts drifted to a place of resignation. I can't do this anymore, she muttered, her voice weak and tired. I just want to rest, to escape from it all. And with that, she closed her eyes and drifted off to sleep, the weight of the world finally lifted from her shoulders, if only for a brief moment. The emptiness of the spare room enveloped her, offering a sanctuary from the chaos outside. As Ursula slept, her dreams were filled with visions of a world gone mad, a world where she was constantly battling against forces beyond her control. But even in her dreams, there was a glimmer of hope, a sense of resilience that refused to be extinguished. And as the night stretched on, Ursula's slumber deepened, her breathing steady and peaceful. In the stillness of the spare room, a sense of calm settled over her, a temporary reprieve from the turmoil of the outside world. And so, Ursula slept on, her dreams weaving a tapestry of wonder and mystery, of adventure and danger. And as the first light of dawn began to creep through the window, she stirred, her eyes fluttering open to a new day, filled with endless possibilities and untold adventures. As she sat up, a smile tugged at the corners of her mouth, a newfound sense of determination burning in her eyes. The emptiness of the spare room no longer felt suffocating, but rather, like a canvas waiting to be painted with the vivid colors of her imagination. And with a renewed sense of purpose, Ursula stepped out of the spare room, ready to face whatever challenges the world might throw her way. For she knew now that no matter how dark the night may seem, there was always the promise of a new dawn on the horizon. And she was ready to embrace it, one step at a time. Words. 500. Luna from Helluva Boss found herself inside an empty spare room, feeling a sense of unease and tension creep over her. She closed her eyes, trying to shut out the world around her, but the memories of her past started to flood back, haunting her. In the flashback, Luna watched helplessly as the military destroyed her precious tablet, a piece of technology that she relied on for both work and personal use. In a fit of anger, she intervened, yelling at them to leave her alone and questioning why everyone seemed so angry all the time. What's everyone's problem? She shouted, her voice filled with frustration. I was using that tablet for something important. Why can't you just leave me alone and let me be? As the memories played out in her mind, Luna's anger turned to sadness, and she began to cry. Why is the whole world insane? She sobbed, feeling overwhelmed by the constant chaos and conflict surrounding her. I'm lost. I just want to be left alone. Feeling physically and emotionally drained, Luna retreated to the spare room for some much-needed solitude. The darkness of the night outside seemed to mirror the darkness within her, and she lay down on the bed, trying to find peace and sleep. As she drifted off, she could still feel the weight of the world pressing down on her, but for a moment, in the quiet of the room, she found a sense of calm. The outside world faded away, leaving her alone with her thoughts and her pain. The room was silent, save for the sound of Luna's breathing as she slept. No one came to disturb her, no harsh words or conflicts intruded on her moment of rest. In that stillness, she found a flicker of hope, a brief respite from the turmoil of her reality. The night passed slowly, the moonlight filtering in through the window, casting a soft glow over Luna's sleeping form. In that moment, she looked almost peaceful, a stark contrast to the fierce, independent demon she portrayed in her daily life. But as the first light of dawn crept into the room, Luna stirred, the weight of the world settling back upon her shoulders. The peace she had found in sleep was fleeting, a temporary escape from the harsh realities of her existence. With a heavy sigh, she opened her eyes, staring up at the ceiling as she prepared to face another day. The solitude of the spare room had offered her a brief respite, but she knew that she could not hide from the world forever. And so, with a sense of resignation, Luna rose from the bed, steeling herself for whatever challenges lay ahead. The emptiness of the spare room still surrounded her, but now she carried a glimmer of resilience within her, a determination to face whatever came her way. As she stepped out into the bright light of day, Luna knew that the battles she faced were far from over. But for now, in the quiet of the room, she had found a moment of peace amidst the chaos, a moment to gather her strength and ready herself for the struggles that lay ahead. Words. The dark room was enveloped in silence, the only sound being the soft breathing of Luna from Helluva Boss animated show. She sat alone on the cold floor, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. Closing her eyes, she let out a deep sigh, her fingers massaging her temples in an attempt to ease the tension building up inside her. As she tried to clear her mind, a sudden flashback flooded her thoughts. She saw the military destroying her precious tablet, the one thing that brought her a sense of solace in this chaotic world. With a surge of anger, she stood up and shouted, "Hey, get away from it. What's everyone's problem? Can't you see I'm using it for something important?" Her voice echoed through the empty room, filled with frustration and desperation. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked down at the shattered remnants of her tablet. Why can't the world just chill? Why is everyone so insane? She cried out, her voice cracking with emotion. Feeling overwhelmed by the harsh reality of the world, Luna sank to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm lost," she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. With a shaky breath, she wiped away her tears and made her way to the spare room for some much-needed solitude. As night fell outside, the darkness seemed to seep into Luna's soul, intensifying her feelings of despair. She groaned softly, clutching her head as a headache pulsed behind her eyes. "I can't put up with this anymore," she muttered, her voice filled with sickness and exhaustion. "I just want to rest and forget about the world." Curling up on her bed, Luna buried her face in the pillow, seeking refuge from the turmoil of her thoughts. She longed for peace, for a moment of respite from the chaos that constantly surrounded her. And in that moment, as she drifted off to sleep, there was a sense of calm that washed over her, a fleeting moment of tranquility in a world gone mad. The room remained silent, the darkness embracing Luna as she slept, undisturbed by the outside world. And for a brief moment, all was well in her troubled mind, the weight of the world lifted off her shoulders as she dreamed of a place where she could truly find peace. And in that moment, in the stillness of the night, Luna found solace in the emptiness of the spare room, a respite from the chaos and turmoil that defined her existence. And as she slept, the world outside faded away, leaving her alone with her thoughts and dreams, if only for a moment. And in that moment, she was free. Words. 458.